Okay, we are good there. All right.
How long have you had the podcast?
Right. Okay. So now,
Not hearing you.
all
Aaron,
right,
did you
let's
hear
turn on.
Michael?
Yeah. Let's turn on the audio, and now I'm ready to start the recorder. So in three, in two, and one. Welcome back, everyone, to Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Tonight, we're very honored to be joined by the host of Blind and Beyond radio show. Michael Golder joins us now. So basically, what I would like you to do is to basically tell me who you are as a person. Walk through the life journey. Tell us everything you want to tell, and don't tell me anything you don't want me to know. But walk through your life journey, and don't forget to talk about how you developed your wonderful radio show and organization and all of that. So, as I always like to say, who is Michael Golder? Go right ahead.
Who am I? That's a good question. Who am I? Well, let's put it this way. Brought up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was in my family in the record business until the age of 20. Then I went to the clothing business. I was in the clothing business for, well, let's put it this way, from the age of 21 till 65. So that's 45 years I was in the clothing business. I was the president and CEO for many of those years of a large multi-million-dollar clothing business. One day, traveling on the road from Ohio to Detroit on the Ohio Turnpike, I was driving the car. And don't ask me why, I said to my passenger, who's one of my salespeople, I'm going to pull over. I'd like you to drive. I'll read the newspaper. I want to rest for a while. So we pulled over. They started to drive. I started reading the paper. And all of a sudden, bingo, bang, everything went dark. And I thought I had my glasses on or something. Everything was dark. And I didn't feel good. I told her to forget the sales calls. Let's go right to my hotel in Detroit. And I want to call up a friend of mine and see if she has an ophthalmologist doctor. So as it was, they got me in there right away. The doctor said they couldn't find anything wrong, but it looks like I'm blind. So I flew home right away and went to two different hospitals. One down in Miami, Jackson, which is Bascom Palmer, and one at Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia. Both gave me the same opinion. Stress. Stress did me in. Because of stress, it gave me cancer a couple years later, and it made me go blind. Now, if you read about stress, it talks about blindness. I guess it's a front runner 12 years ago, 14 years ago. This was an 08. So how many years ago that was? Not 2008. But being blind, I was dismissed immediately from the clothing business. Even though I had my own company, the banks ran away from me. I mean, anybody that had anything to do with credit in the garment industry, you have to have millions and millions of dollars because you are buying fabric way in advance. The people like Macy's and all the other department stores and retail stores, they pay 3-4 months after you invoice them, after you ship the goods. And sometimes customers, about 20% of your customers are big stragglers. They could be 6 months, 7 months. So you have a lot of money out in the street. And then, of course, you have inventory and stock. Yeah, your money's in stock. Your money's on the tables being cut, fabric-wise. Your money's on receivables. And if you don't have bankers behind you, you got a problem, because every major company in this world need banks to support you. And when it came to a blind person like myself, they wanted no parts of me. So that was it. Got out of the garment industry real fast. That's all I knew. All of a sudden, one day, my wife was reading the paper and saw an ad for a salesperson for a radio station. And she said I should go there. I said, look, it's salesperson I could do, but being blind, let's see what happens. Okay, so she pushed me and we went. They hired me on the spot. And I said, do you realize I'm blind? And the owner of the station, by the way, this was in Orlando. It was it was CBS Sports affiliate in CBS Sports affiliate in Orlando those days. So I was going to work for a CBS Sports affiliate. So I said, I'm blind. And he said, look, I don't care if you're blind. I care if you have a mouth. Can you talk? That's what I care about. If you can talk, I'm interested. I don't care about your eyes. Your eyes aren't going to do anything for me. It's your mouth. Your mouth brings me orders. I'm interested in orders. Can you bring me orders? Can you do things? I said, yeah. So I started to sell. And then one day I ran across a cheesesteak restaurant that has stores, by the way, down in Palm Beach, franchises called Espadas. And I said to the owner that you should be on the Big 810. That was the call letters for CBS Sports at that time. Anyway, make a long story short, I made a commercial myself. Don't ask me why. I just felt like doing it because I knew I'm from Philadelphia. I know all about cheesesteaks, and this guy's cheesesteaks, he's from Philly. And I tasted it, and it was really great. So I made a commercial. The owner flipped out, loved it. Matter of fact, he put my commercial that I made in California when they were doing awards, and it received some kind of award, not first or second, but I think it was like top 10 in the whole country as far as commercials. So that began my radio days, making my first commercial. Then one day on the station, something happened negative. Two guys were knocking me because I was blind. And in my life, I went through a lot of hardships. I was short. I was Jewish. I was always somewhere along the line being knocked one way or another. And I couldn't care less. I could care less, but the point was it didn't really bother me. The old story, sticks and bones break your bones. What's it called? Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt me. But being blind, and they were knocking me because I was using a cane in those days. Still do use a cane, but they were knocking me with my cane. Well, when the owner heard it, he fired both of them. And he wanted to ask me, what can I do for you? I said, I like to tell the world about sighted people who are blind because I don't think they know about blind people. I said, to tell you the truth, being blind, I never met a blind person before I was blind. He says, look, I got a 3 o'clock spot open, 3 o'clock on Saturdays. Get me a sponsor. I'll give you the hour show. And you can do whatever you want for that hour. So I called up one of my friends, Anheuser-Busch, and they sponsored the show. And they sponsored the radio show for the hour 3 to 4 on Saturday. And what happened was it was an instant hit, out of the world came everybody in Orlando. So the owner said to me, why don't you get some more sponsors? Go to 2 hours. And I got some more sponsors. We went to 2 hours. And the calls just kept coming in like unbelievable. Every day was a talk show. And he says, it's amazing. Look at all these calls you're getting. So one thing led to another. And I said to myself, I'm always aggressive. I said, I should go to more cities. I should do this. So I called up, matter of fact, West Palm Beach, the station down there, West Palm Beach. And immediately we bought time on the radio, but it had to be 3 o'clock to 5 on Saturdays because I didn't want to have a tape show. And it was all live. So I bought time. Then I got this idea. The idea was, why should I work for the radio station? Because he's making all the money for the sponsors. Why don't I do it? Why don't I turn around? So I called him up and I said, listen, I'll buy the time for a couple hours from you and I'll get my own sponsors like I'm doing. And I want to keep that money. And I want to go around the country opening up radio stations. And that's what I started doing. And at one time, after about a year and a half, we had a dozen radio stations. From the East Coast, we had Boston, we had New York, Philadelphia, right down the whole, from Boston to Miami, right down the road. We had 12, and we had in Memphis, we went as far as Memphis. And then one day I got cancer, and that was that show. That was all over there. Bottom line was that doctor did not want me to be on the radio with cancer. I had to go to treatments every day with radiation. And we couldn't prepare for the show because I was doing all the things every day with the radiation. And came the weekends, I was exhausted. So that was that. So we went off the radio. Then, after I beat the cancer and no more radiation, I decided I want to come back on the radio, but I want to be a nonprofit. This was a profit show. I want to go nonprofit. So I went to Lighthouse, Central Florida, and I said, are you interested in sponsoring our show? And they said, absolutely, because they knew the show when we were doing it live from Orlando. They said, yeah, we'd like to do part of it. So I started calling up different people about sponsoring our new show, except this was going to be a national radio show, and this was going to be a nonprofit radio show. So I started getting sponsors, and I started spending money on advertising all around the country for the Blind and Beyond radio show. And I wanted to be something very important. Blind and Beyond radio show, we say we're the bridge between the sighted community and the blind community. So it was supposed to be a fun show. It was supposed to be not just for the blind, it was supposed to be for the sighted as well. Because I wanted the sighted people to learn and know about a blind person. I wanted the sighted person to understand that we, the blind, can do more than just push pencils. Because most people, when they think of blind people that are sighted, think about somebody selling newspapers or pencils at a railroad station or an airport. They don't realize that we that are blind can do many things if we want to. And that's a key word, if we want to. And that's what we started the show about. And to this day, that's what we do. We talk about everything. There's two things we don't talk about. We don't talk about religion and we don't talk about politics. But the whole idea of the show is to be positive, not negative, and to get people that are visually impaired blind to get off their rear end and go do something. Because I feel you can do anything you want to do if you're blind, except drive a car. And now you can even drive a car because they have, matter of fact, our new sponsor coming on the show in January is the company that makes the cars with no steering wheel, you just sit there and the car goes by itself. And anyway, that's what the show's all about. talk show. I always say, we talk, you listen. You talk, we listen. So you can call in. It's a live radio show. We have prizes every week. Matter of fact, for 5 weeks, we were giving away $50 gift cards for food, for Publix, for Visa, $50 gift cards for Publix, or just Visa gift cards. If you're out of the Publix area and you're in Canada, we have a lot of people all around the world listening to this station. But besides the United States, which we have 1.5 million listeners in the United States, we have a lot of people in Canada. We don't know how many people in Canada are listening to the show, but a lot of people listen. And we were sending a lot of gift cards to Canada in the last 5-6 weeks. And that's what we're doing. We're giving away gift cards. So people are calling in, and you didn't have to win anything. Normally, we give out prizes. Every week we give out prizes. We play songs. We have different questions. And you answer it, and you call in, you answer the question. We give you a gift card for $10. So lately, we've been giving away, well, not lately, but the last few years, we give away Subway, $10 gift cards for Subway. So that's what the show's all about. It's a fun show. It's every week we have sponsors coming on the show and talk about sponsors, the CEOs. If you listen one time, if you're visually impaired and blind, you'll get a kick out of the show. Because it's a fun show. And we have different people coming on the show each week. That's a co-host. We have Sheila Young, who's the president of ACB in the state of Florida. She's the president of the state of Florida for Florida Council for Florida. She's a co-host. She's on every second week of the month. We have different co-hosts each week. One's a veteran, the vet. One is a musician. I mean, each one's something different. And we go around the country and we get people coming on that we go after them, whether it be in Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, and they bring their audience with them. And they come on the show and we give them time to talk. And if they have something to say, I don't want people to say about nothing. As I said, we can't talk about politics. They can't talk about religion. But if they got something to say about the visually impaired and blind or the sighted community, that's what's all about. If there's any questions you would like to call in, please call in. Love to hear from you. The show is on every Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you can hear us all over the world. Blind and Beyond radioshow.org. That's the web. That's how you go on the website. If you have Alexa at home, just tune in Alexa to say, Alexa, tune in. You can go to WOKB and just say, Alexa, 7 o'clock, get me WOKB 1680. Or if you know, like you're in South Florida, we have a radio station down there, 50,000 watt, WFTL850 on the AM dial. That covers from Melbourne to Miami. So if you're in that area, you can listen on the radio. In the car, you can listen. So we have different stations, whether AM, FM, and streaming around the world. We even have people writing to us and talking to us from Pakistan even. So we have quite a few sponsors from England who sponsor the show. A lot of people listening from England. And Foundation Fighting Blindness is one of our sponsors, been on for years. Spectrum Communication, the cable people. We have some great sponsors. So what else can I tell you about the show? My pleasure to tell you about the show.
Well, I just want you to know something. I love the way that you deliver your message. You know, you have so much seriousness in your life. You've been through so much. And I'm a young person. I'm 32, and I just love what you're doing. You're just, the fact that you're doing all these things, irrespective of your blindness, irrespective of your health problems, irrespective of anything else, except for the fact that you care about others. That's exactly what I try to teach my audience. That's exactly what I try to teach my listeners. This is exactly the type of of guests that I want in my corner, in my audience, because this is exactly the same logic that I'm trying to impress on other people my age, is that you have to really want to help people, and that's just overwhelmingly obvious to me how much you care, so that's so good. And your story, the way you deliver it, is very, very entertaining and very meaningful and just so good. So, for one thing, I notice as far as my audience goes, I do have a lot of listeners all over the States and in India and South Africa, and I have a lot of listeners from all the continents. And I know that I have several South African friends that are going to love your show. So how would someone from South Africa tune in? And how would someone find out information about all of the variety of stations, like all the stations that you're on, by the way? Let's start with that one.
Well, number one, most people, if they stream us wherever they are in the world, just go to Blind and Beyond radioshow.org. And there's a button there that says listen live.
Yeah.
So you can listen right from Blind and Beyond radioshow.org. Or if you have Alexa in your home, that's the two biggest ways people listen. We're on TuneIn Radio. That's another one, big one, TuneIn Radio. And if you have a Victor Reader at home, Victor Reader from, trying to remember who puts out Victor Reader.
It might be
Humanware puts out.
Yeah, Victor. Maybe that one.
So if you have a Victor Reader, you can listen on a Victor Reader. Yeah. So many ways. A lot of people listen on the radio, but the sighted people about that's very. Now this is very interesting. We know from what they're telling me that a third of our audience is sighted, and that I love. That a third of our audience is sighted because of the radio. So a third of our audience is listening on the radio, and they call in, they talk, and they say some great things about the show. But again, the biggest thing that I'm trying to do before I go to the next world is to pass on what I've learned in my life, in many ways, shapes, and form. I always tell people, it's not if you're down, it's how many times you get up. If you get knocked down, get up again. I don't want to hear that you're blind. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear that. As long as you have a mouth, as long as you have a brain, and that's the rest is, if you're in a wheelchair, you can still do things. So the point is, most people are negative, and that's a shame, because they shouldn't be negative. They should be positive. Because if you're a positive person, that's the whole idea. If you listen to our show for a day or two, you'll realize you'll be positive. And that's the whole idea. Get you out of that well that you're in, that negative well. Go to be positive well. That's the best thing to do. Because when you're positive, there's everything you can do when you want to do it. Look, let me just tell you this too, I went blind later in life. I don't know Braille. The only thing I'm afraid of, to tell you the truth and be honest with you, is I'm afraid of elevators, because I've been stuck on elevators and I don't know Braille. So if you go like in New York City, I was on an elevator with 54 flights, 54 floors, and I was stuck, and I was the only one on the elevator. And that was not funny. I got scared. I was on there about 10 minutes until other people I stopped pushing buttons and nothing was happening. And finally, some people got on and I got to the ground floor. So most elevators today, if you push the lower button, is not always the ground floor. But I learned that a lot of people later in life are like myself. They don't know Braille. Not only I don't know Braille, I don't know how to use a computer. So I try to tell it as it is. If you ask me a question and I don't know it, I have co-hosts that know Braille. They know, let's just say, things I don't know. So I'll turn it over to them real fast. Or we'll give you the answer. We'll get the answer for you. The point is this way. I don't claim to know everything, but I do know one thing about life. There's a few words that are very important in life. These words I'm going to tell you right now is the key to my life. First word is be focused. Always be focused. If you focused, and then the next word is right after focus is persistent. So if you decide to do something, stay with it. If you get knocked down, stay with it. If you get knocked down again, get up and stay with it. Persistent. If you don't, most people don't realize, for me to get a sponsor, I might have called a guy 50 times. I'm not exaggerating now. I might have called a guy 50 times until he talks to me. I'll keep on. People say, aren't you going to get him mad? My answer is, I don't care. I want him to be on the show. The point is this way. If you are focused and you are persistent, you got two things going for you. Those are two big words. And the other word is being positive. So remember these words: to be focused, to be persistent, and the last word, as I said before, is be always positive. Don't let it cut you down. Now, I can tell you right now, I have certain things getting me down. I just had a niece die just recently, and it got me down. I admit it. But I'll think about positive things about her life. I'll think about positive things about how we did things together. You can always be negative. In life, there's always, there's an expression which is very true. Life isn't fair. How come I'm blind? How come this? They said if I would have stood on my head, and this is no joke, if I would have stood on my head once a week doing yoga, I wouldn't have gone blind. Because I went blind due to my brain. My eyes are fine. It was my brain that did me in, because in my brain, I had too much cortisol to the brain. So the point is, I needed blood going to my brain. And when you're stressful, if you're yelling, if you ever yell sometimes and you feel in your veins and your throat on the side of your neck, when you yell, you notice your veins will go up. That's with me, between stressful, yelling, carrying on, being an idiot, talking to people. Let me say this way. I said something that's on the radio show last week, which is very true. I'll tell you something very true. Being blind right now, I enjoy life now more than I did when I was sighted. Because when I was sighted, it was work and traveling. So I didn't spend that much time with my kids and my wife. Now I can only tell you this way. I love my wife to no end. I appreciate her. I appreciate my kids. And I will call them all the time. And I don't wait for them to call me. I call them. So the point is this way. If you say to me right now, being blind, it can be a positive. I know that's hard for somebody to say, but it's true. There's worse things in this world to be blind. And my answer to those people, being blind taught me plan B and plan C, go another direction. Now I learned to smell the roses, as they say, to smell and be where I didn't care before, where I didn't always call up my kids all the time. Now I do. So the point is this way. I'm not saying that I'm the best, but I will tell you this one thing right now. I try, big word, I try to do my best. I'm not always saying that I am the best, but I'll try to do the best. I try to do, I make mistakes all the time on the radio, and I say, oh, I just screwed up. My co-host on the show is my wife. My wife is sighted. My wife is the one who puts the show together. And we have a show for 2 hours that runs smoothly. Clock, we run what they call a clock. Every minute of the time is spoken for. And if you listen to the show, you won't hear dead air. You won't hear dead things. It's laughing. It's crying. It's telling jokes. We have musicians come on and or poets come on. We have a lot of live things going on. Anyway, that's the story. That's my life. And maybe you'll tune in and get a kick out of the show. If you call in, tell me that you called in and you heard it at this podcast. Aaron, thank you very much for having me on your show. Appreciate it so much. Anything else I can tell you?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I just love your message that you give. You say that you never speak about religion and politics, and I agree. And for the most part, me neither on my show. I agree with that. But oftentimes there are so many issues in the blindness community that rarely become religious at all, but oftentimes many issues do become political. When you're running your show and when you're thinking about the issues that you want to cover, how do you talk about and how do you dissect and digest issues that can be perceived politically, yet
we don't talk about
in a non-political way? For example, there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that blind people talk about, whether they talk about it politically or not.
I'll give part of it.
Yeah, sure.
Aaron,
go ahead.
I'll tell you this right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be political, but here's what happened. About a month ago, no, it was more than that. It was before Halloween. My wife and I got COVID. Week before Halloween in October. And I got it from going into a doctor's office. And I always wear a mask. I wear a mask everywhere I go. To this day and before, I always wear a mask. And I got my COVID, which I gave it to my wife, from the doctor's office. So I went on the air and I talked about the mask, and I talked about everybody should get their injections and the mask. Well, pardon me. We had people writing, calling, that we shouldn't talk about masks. We shouldn't talk about political things like that. If you have your own beliefs, you shouldn't say it on the radio. And my answer to this, I have a talk show. I have a belief. You have a belief? You call in. I try not to talk about religion. That's a perfect example of what I'm just saying. The mask and getting shots. A lot of people don't want to hear about it. I said to the people afterwards that I'm sorry you didn't like it. That's why on radio you have a dial, you just turn it off. And I say to people all the time, if you don't like what I'm saying, then turn me off. Very simple. The point is, I have an opinion. I'm going to voice my opinion, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm an independent. I always voted for the person all my whole life. I voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats. I voted for everybody. I always go for the person. And I don't go by one issue. With me, it's always the person. What kind of person? Now, if I say that, and I said it before, I vote for the person. People say, oh, you vote like this person because this person. I said, well, look, I vote for the person. That's who I am. That has nothing to do with what, if he's a Democrat or Republican or independent. I vote for the person. If I think the person's got good character, if I think the person, let's put it this way. If I'll just say this way right now. When it comes to politics, if it comes to a person, I always say one thing. Would I want that person to date my daughter? Would I want that person to date my daughter and bring him in my house? And if I wouldn't let the person date my daughter, if I wouldn't let that person come in my house, I'm certainly not going to vote for him. Now you can say, oh, that's terrible. Well, that's my opinion. I have an opinion. You have an opinion. I'm not saying who to vote for. I never said that who to vote for. I just said how I look at life. I look at life a certain thing. It's very simple. Okay. My life is being positive, trying to teach my blood. Let's put it this way, to teach my brothers and sisters who are visually impaired and blind. There's more to life than being blind. That's the whole story.
Beautiful. Yeah, really, really beautiful. I just cannot agree with you more. And, your show too is also very you just have a really, your show has character. By the way, of course, I love the music that you guys came up with, that with the castanets, I believe, and then you have a beautiful soundtrack. I mean, enlighten me on the art behind that, because that's a very distinct. You have a very distinctive soundtrack that's very unusual and very beautiful. I really like it. By the way.
Well, everything we've done was always because when we were on the station, as I said back when, we had people giving us opinions, and I listened to their opinions. It wasn't just myself or my wife; it was people giving us opinions with the castanets and everything else, and we kept them. We kept to this day. One of the things how we grow and grow and grow is because we spend a lot of money advertising all over the country, spending a lot of money advertising. And we have two people in our office. They call different people, Oklahoma, Ohio, wherever. They're calling people that are visually impaired and blind, letting them know that we're out there. So that's all they do. They write people. We send out, probably about 50 letters a day.
Ooh la la. Wow.
So every day we're sending out letters to new people. The music, did you say? A lot of people like our music. A lot of people don't like the music.
Oh, come on. If somebody doesn't like your music, then they definitely need to listen to something else, because that music alone just completely is so pleasing, at least to me. And maybe that's an opinion, but let me tell you, it's a fact. Your soundtrack is great. Don't let anyone confuse you. Okay, just don't.
Well,
don't change it.
Part of the show is the co-hosts come on and they try to play a song. Let's say I'll play a song, You Talk Too Much. It was a song called You Talk Too Much. And okay, who sang it?
Mm-hmm.
We'll play a song, My Way by Frank Sinatra. And I'll say, okay, who sang it besides Frank Sinatra? The guy who wrote it. People don't know that either. One of my favorite songs. Oh, I'll tell you one right now. There's a song, which is one of my favorite songs. Everybody should know this song. It's by Nat King Cole. It's called Smile. Just the word smile. Listen to the words anytime. It's my, whenever I get down, whenever I think anything negative, whatever, all I have to do is, Alexa, play Smile by Nat King Cole. And after I listen to the words, I'm back up again. So the point that I'm saying is, Smile by Nat King Cole has unbelievable words. So that's all I can tell you. That's my story.
Yeah. No, I really, you've been asking some great trivia. You really have me stumped. My favorite one so far, now that I've been so, engaged in what you do and so listening, so seriously, I really enjoyed, I think it was last week where you asked the question about it was either you or Lynne who posed it, but whoever did, great question. How many gifts are given in the 12 Days of Christmas song? I loved that, because I guessed, by the way, in my mind, I guessed 77. And I believe one of your other co-hosts guessed 78. And both of us were wrong. It was 364. And the person who guessed it guessed 360. That was fascinating. That was a fascinating trivia question. You in trivia, man. You could, you should start a game show. I mean, with all the trivia questions that you're great at writing, you would be great at that. Yeah. Another great song that's one of my favorites is, of course, Let Them Talk by Hugh Laurie. That's another incredibly beautiful song too. You could throw that one into the mix. Yeah. But absolutely, you come up with some great trivia. You truly do. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and then you give out all these great gift cards and things. And besides gift cards, what other over the years, what other prizes, what other door prizes basically have you given out for trivia, things like that?
We gave away a cruise for 4 nights.
Whoa!
A free cruise out of Miami for 4 nights. We gave away, the biggest thing we spent thousands on is giving away, comes Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we give away $50. We gave away thousands of dollars this past 6 weeks. We gave away thousands of dollars worth of gift cards.
So another thing I was just curious about. So you say, and I believe you. So your show, Blind and Beyond, radioshow.org is a nonprofit organization. So, how does that work? And by the way, what other nonprofit activities do you guys do? And what happens, when someone donates to your great organization? How do you handle that and all that?
Well, first of all, we're a 501c3.
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're a 501c3. We're nonprofit. We help out, as I say, we've helped out people with the gift cards. We've helped out locally. We've helped out local lighthouses. There's one not too far away from where we live. We give away all the paper goods that they use. We pay for every month. The paper goods, whether it be toilet paper or paper napkins, whatever it may be, anything paper, the writing paper, anything that they use in paper goods, we pay for. We had ice cream trucks going around in Orlando giving away free ice cream to different people that we went up to different organizations, giving away free ice cream. But there's many things we do around the country. As I said, we're a nonprofit organization, 501c3. Nobody owns Blind and Beyond. It's a talk show that's a nonprofit. We have a board of directors, and that's the story.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you ever help other blind people? Not me, but just in a general sense. Do you ever help other blind people around the world or country who would come to you and say, Mr. Golder, I really want to get into broadcasting, but I don't know how to do it, or I don't have the money for the equipment. Have you ever done programs where you help other blind people specifically get involved in
I have, but I will tell you this right now.
Sure.
I have helped people, but most people cannot go by my rules. And I'll tell you, my rules are very simple. Most people, they want to go on the radio. Everyone's going on the radio. I'm on the radio because of one thing. And that's not because of what I know. It's because, number one, I put the whole show together, number one. And that means when you put a show together, that means you have to have money. Where do I get the money from? Sponsors. That means you have to go out and sell. And that means you have to be persistent. So it's not just coming on the radio and go and have a show. That means you have to go out and sell to sponsors, to get sponsors to pay for the show. So the point is, we have to have sponsors. And that's a key. We have sponsors. We have sponsors now. We've been on the radio now 8 years. And the 8 years we've been on, we've got sponsors the whole 8 years. We've got 4 sponsors been on for at least 5 years. One has been the whole 8 years. So that's what it's all about. If somebody would like to listen to what I have to say, wants me to teach them, my pleasure. But the problem is, they don't want to do. They don't want to go selling. They don't want to go do anything. They just want to go on the radio and talk. And you make nothing that way. If you're going to go on the radio and just talk, radio today is, unless you have the ownership, unless you have on a big station, most guys that are on a small station don't make much money. They don't pay much unless you bring in the one thing, the sponsors.
Right. So how do sponsors work, by the way? I mean, we say the word all the time, but can you explain to me from kind of the simplified version, the A to Z? So what does it mean when a said company sponsors you? And so then they give you money? Like how does it work?
We give them airtime on the radio.
Right.
We give them airtime. Anyway, you'll have to pardon me. Right now, I'm getting not feeling well. Today I had a procedure done to me, and I don't feel good. So I'm going to have to excuse myself.
That is fine.
I hope the people listening will sometime listen to this show. Maybe we can talk again sometime, Aaron.
Absolutely. You are always welcome here.
Remember one thing. The name of the show is called Blind and Beyond radioshow.org.
Wonderful.
By the way, if you're in the computer, if you're not on a computer, just look up Blind Radio Show. That's all you have to do. You have to do anything else. Just if you have a computer, just look up Blind Radio Show, because we're the only one in the world. with a blind radio show like this, a talk show for the world. So there's a lot of podcasts. There's hundreds of podcasts, but there's only one national radio show for the world, the commercial radio show with sponsors and commercial and only one. So check
Absolutely.
us out, beyondradioshow.org.
Sure,
Thanks for
sure,
having me,
sure.
Aaron. Thank you.
You're forever welcome. Forever
Good night.
welcome.
God bless you all. Good night.
God bless you as
Good night.
well. All right.
Thank you.
We'll
Good night.
we'll see you on Sunday. I'll be ready for it.
Wish you, well, by the way, everybody wish you all a very big holiday, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or any other holiday that you celebrate, plus Happy New Year to everybody.
To you as well. To you as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. All right. Do either one of you have a question for me? I always like to say when people walk out, hey, do you have one more question you've always wanted to know about Aaron Richmond? Do either one of you have a question for me? All right.
Yeah. So Aaron, Michael has left.